Hi, welcome to tutorial on servlets. In our previous tutorial, we have learned about how to write a servlet and what are the methods we have to override from HTTP servlet super class. And let me explain in more detail about the previous example what we have seen. So in our previous tutorial, we have written a doGet method inside our servlet class hello world. Let's come to these arguments to doGet method, HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, and we have written some throws class here. And the thing here, we have to concentrate on HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. Here you can get more request information with the help of this HTTP servlet request object, and here you can send some kind of more information through to the from server to the client by using this HTTP servlet response. And let's come to this throws class. We have written servlet exception and IO exception. Here servlet exception, why we have written, and why we have written IO exception. Now let's come to this servlet exception. When does this kind of error message will occur? Servlet exception may raise when we are trying to sending data from our server to the client. It could we need a connection, so the connection from server to client may fail at any time. So this kind of errors may cause. That's why we handle such kind of errors with the help of this servlet exception. And coming to this IO exception, when we are trying to open an output stream in order to send data from server to client, we may fail to open an output stream, so that would cause an IO exception. So here this is the brief description of the doGet method's signature. And coming to this line of statement, we have opened an output stream here, and we are simply sending data to the client by using this println statement. And now let's look at the web.xml file in more detail, and let me explain more detail about the tags what we have written inside this web.xml file, the highlighted portion. For that, let me open a Paint or MS Paint. So these are the tags what we have written inside our web.xml file to provide configuration of our servlet. So this is the configuration what we have done in our web.xml file. So now what will happen when we send a request to the servlet that is running on a server from our client side? Let me explain that one clearly. This is the client application and this is the server application, let us assume like that. And inside this server, let us assume that is a Tomcat server. Our web application is running. Let us assume this small box is a web application what we have deployed to our Tomcat server. this is the diagrammatic representation of our application that is running on the Tomcat server. Now this is the client application. Let me write the hello world servlet what we have deployed to the that is the servlet, and we send request to this servlet through this client to this servlet that is running on our web server. By using the URL pattern. So let me write the address what we have used to call this servlet that is running on our server. Localhost colon 8000 is my port number, and hello world is my our application name. That's the URL we have used on client to call a servlet on server. Now, in order to call the servlet that is on server, we have used this URL pattern. What I am highlighting right now, we have used this URL pattern, and this is the URL pattern we have configured here. I mean the same URL pattern we have configured here in web.xml file under servlet mapping attribute. When the Tomcat server finds this hello world URL pattern, then it will immediately looks for the servlet name attribute immediately it looks for that. So this is the servlet name we have configured under servlet name mapping. After finding the name or alias name or nickname we have configured under this servlet mapping tag, then immediately the Tomcat server goes to this servlet element, and it looks for the servlet name, from here. From here the control comes to this point, and then after entering into this servlet element, then it will immediately looks for the servlet name that is got from the servlet mapping element. So this is the servlet name we have configured, and the same servlet name is also configured here. And after finding the matching servlet name inside this servlet element, then it will immediately looks for this servlet class attribute. Then what will happen internally is, immediately after finding this servlet class attribute, then it will takes the value of this attribute servlet class, that is org.servlet.helloworld.helloworld, and this value will be taken by the Tomcat container when we deploy the application to the Tomcat server, or during the Tomcat server startup. It will read this whole information, and this is the thing done by Tomcat internally when we deploy application to the Tomcat server or the server startup. During the server startup, then it will immediately loads this class hello world class, immediately loads this class. Then it will call the doGet method automatically, because we have sent a get kind of request from client to server. That's why it is the doGet method is called internally, because we have sent a get kind of request from client to server. Here we have to note one point that whatever the request we sent from client to the server, by default it is a request of type get method type of request, unless until we say this is of type another kind of request method. By default, whatever the request you sent from, to whatever the resource you send a request from client to the server, it is by default get request. So we can also specify a post request, and we can see that in coming example. As of now, these are the things done by Tomcat internally when we send a request from client to server. Thank you.